morning and welcome to Random Scottish History, Scottish Railway Incidents for December of 1900. So this is our last month for 1900. Hope you've been enjoying it so far. Usual trigger warnings apply. Lots of people were killed and injured on the railways, some by choice, mostly not. Animals, people, I mean, if it could be killed and find its way on the lines, then there was an article relating to them. If you've seen the other ones, you'll have an idea of what it is we're doing here. You have sometimes repetition a wee bit, where further articles have extra information. You also have mispronunciations from Alex and myself of both names of people and places, because there are many of both. So, when we get into December, Alex, you want to start us?
No problem. So here we have Dundee Courier, Monday the 3rd. Railway smash near Berwick. Traffic disorganised. Mail trains delayed. Early yesterday morning, when a goods train on the northeastern railway was a few miles south of Berwick, the couplings of a wagon broke. The first part of the train was brought to a standstill, but the second part, coming on, dashed into it. 28 wagons were thrown off the rails and both lines were blocked for several hours. 7 of the wagons were smashed to pieces. Breakdown gangs were sent from Gateshead to Tweedmouth to repair the damage. The fast trains to Edinburgh were delayed 5 hours and other traffic was disorganised. 28 wagons. 28.
Not too much of an incident starts off there. The North British Daily Mail from Monday the 3rd of December gives us a singular accident. A rather unusual accident occurred at the Queen's Dock on Friday night. While 3 railway wagons were being run to the edge of the quay, the foremost one jumped the sleeper buffer intended to stop it and rolled into the hold of the steamer Kelburn. A number of men and women who were working in the hold escaped injury. The wagon was lifted out by means of a large crane. Failure in operations there.
Okay, so next up we have Inverness Courier, Tuesday the 4th of December, man killed on West Highland Railway. An accident of a shocking nature occurred on Friday afternoon on the West Highland Railway, about a mile east of Speenbridge Station. Donald Forbes, aged about 80 years, had been walking on the line and, being somewhat deaf, did not hear a ballast train approach, with the result that he was run down near a sharp curve and instantly killed. The body was horribly mutilated. Deceased, who was better known by the cognomen of Killy Chassie, belonged originally to Aberfeldy and for many years was a well-known figure in dancing competitions at Highland gatherings. Latterly, he followed the occupation of mole catcher throughout the Lochaber district, and for a man of his advanced age was robust and constitutionally strong.
It's a wee shame for him. He seems to have got about during his life, eh?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. Well, I was really into dancing, but then I went to my true calling of hunting moles. Someone's got to do it.
Maybe it's like birds dancing on the ground to get the worms up.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
But humans for moles.
It's going to be anti-mole dance. Yeah.
The Dundee Courier for Wednesday the 5th of December gives us a railway fatality at Dundee, a yardsman's sad death. An accident resulting in the death of a yardsman named David Smith from 194 Blackness Road occurred at the goods yard of the North British Railway Company at Dundee last night. Smith, at the time of the accident, about 20 minutes to 10 o'clock, was walking along the permanent way in a westerly direction. He had just given instructions to a signalman about a west-going train when, in trying to get clear of a pilot engine proceeding westward, he was knocked down in front of a number of wagons which were being shunted to the east by another pilot engine. The wagons were immediately brought to a standstill, but not before one of the wheels had come against the unfortunate man's prostrate body. One of the railwaymen, a member of the ambulance corps in connection with the Tay Bridge station, was quickly on the spot and made an examination of the extent of the injuries, but found life to be extinct. The body was thereafter removed to the shunters bothy, and Dr. Lennox, who was called, pronounced death to have been instantaneous. The external effects of the accident had apparently been slight. Smith, who was over 30 years of age, leaves a widow and 4 of a family, for whom much sympathy is felt. His father resides at Ketty, while a cousin is the station master at the Esplanade station.
So, Aberdeen Press and Journal, Wednesday 5th of December. Man killed on railway. On Saturday night, the mutilated remains of John Bailey, printer and stationer, Hamilton, were found on the 4 Feet Way on the low level at Eglinton Street station of the Caledonian Railway in Glasgow. No one had seen the deceased, and it is unknown how the accident occurred. However, a second one, crushed to death, Richard McCone, a foreman labourer, was crushed between the buffers of 2 wagons on Saturday at Berth 18, Queensdock, Glasgow, and killed instantly.
Yes. This Eglinton Street station is possibly what's now Bridge Street subway. But it would have been a mainline station along with St Enoch's, Argyll Street, etc. From the Aberdeen Press and Journal for Wednesday the 5th of December, a carter killed at Inverness. On Friday, a sad accident occurred at the Highland Railway loading bank at Inverness, resulting in the instantaneous death of John Ralph Carter. He and Mr. Boyd, his employer, were loading a wagon. Boyd went to shift the horse while Ralph was packing wood. Some wagons were shunted against the wagon. Ralph fell between the bank and the wagons, and 3 of them passed over his head. He was 30 years of age, unmarried, and belonged to Port Mahomet.
I'll do it.
Can you hear him going over his head? There wouldn't be much left.
So, next up we have North British Daily Mail, Thursday the 6th, surfaceman killed. Yesterday, the body of Norman Mackay, 22 years old, surfaceman, was found on the Highland Railway line at Milton of Bracklish, near Gollenfield Station. Mackay came into Inverness from Fort George to see some friends belonging to the Invernessshire Militia and return home in the evening. He is supposed to have wandered onto the railway line and to have been knocked down by the night train and killed.
The Edinburgh Evening News for Friday the 7th of December, we have a railway smash at Hamilton. This morning a serious smash occurred on the Caledonian Railway outside the central station, Hamilton, the scene of many previous occurrences of the kind due to subsidences caused by mineral workings. A mineral train was entering the station when 12 wagons left the rails, one being overturned, a second tilting partly over it, while others had wheels torn off and were smashed and damaged. The line is being cleared and traffic is being conducted over the down line. Hamilton Station features quite a lot with regards subsidence. The same at Coatbridge Sunnyside. They also seem to suffer from the mining works that were going on in the district. They weren't alone. They weren't the only stations. Mines often came in conjunction with the railways going overground.
Yeah, seems to be quite a lot of big crashes without actual casualties as well. I've noticed that quite a few of those over the last few months worth of videos, whereby you'll have like 12 or 28 carriages smashed up, but it's almost never like fully loaded with people.
Will be mail carriages usually. So they tend to happen first thing in the morning and be cleared up before the passenger trains start operations.
Just seems really lucky. Like
ballast trains, mineral trains, mail trains. There were all kinds of trains that didn't take passengers.
Next up, Falkirk Herald, Saturday the 8th of December, fatal accident at Carron. On Friday, about 1 o'clock, a young man named Robert Jackson, who lodged in Geardoch Terrace, but who was supposed to belong to Langholm district, met his death by falling in front of a railway wagon in Carron Works. Jackson was employed as a guard on the railway and was engaged at his work when the accident happened. The body was conveyed to Falkirk mortuary, pending communication with deceased's friends.
This is the one that just brought to somebody's door. That tended to happen a lot. You'll have heard those if you've heard other episodes of this series. From the Airdrie and Coatbridge Advertiser for Saturday the 8th of December, we have stopped the Royal Train. This is just a wee incidental story that I found quite interesting, quite funny. While Her Majesty was on a visit to Dunrobin Castle, a very comical incident occurred. The train had to pass a certain farm on the way, and the farmer and his family and all the farm servants gathered in an adjacent level crossing to gaze at the train as it passed. One boy, with exceedingly loyal intentions, has secured his mother's best scarlet shawl to wave as a flag. He ran forward to a little hill near the crossing to get the first glimpse of the train. At last it came in sight, and the youngster shouted and cheered, waving his flag frantically. Imagine the surprise of the people when the royal train slowed and stopped. In an instant, a railway official seized the boy and cried, "Down with that shawl! Don't you know you're stopping the royal train?" The driver had taken it as a signal of danger. However, it pleased Her Majesty to be greatly amused, and no ill consequences ensued. Here we go.
You get locked in the tower or anything like that?
I just shouted at by a station master, apparently.
So next up, Kirkintilloch Herald, Wednesday the 12th. Shortly before 7 o'clock on Saturday night, a railway accident of a serious nature occurred at Camslang Station to a miner named Connolly, residing at Blantyre. Connolly was journeying with the Bothwell train to Blantyre, and on its arrival at Camslang, he opened the wrong door, falling on the 6-foot way. When being examined by Dr. McPherson, Camslang, he was found to have sustained severe injuries to the face and arms, and was ordered to the Royal Infirmary.
I don't tend to skip out on details like that you normally say what was broken or lacerated or...
But we might find out more about that, you know.
They were serious, anyway. Dundee Evening Post for Friday the 14th of December. We have a railway smash at Dundee, train crashes into carriages, damage to rolling stock. This afternoon, a rather serious accident occurred at Coatbridge station involving considerable damage to the rolling stock. A train arrived at the station from the south shortly after midday, and, after the passengers had been landed, the carriages were shifted in order to have them shunted into a lie situated at the extreme west end of the platform between the north and south main lines. As the carriages negotiated the points leading to the lie, they entered upon a gradient. Here they could be brought to a stop. They dashed into the stationary buffers at the end. The force of the collision was of sufficient severity to knock the first carriage off the train off the line, besides smashing the footboard and otherwise damaging it. The two other vehicles fared even worse than this carriage, their bodies being damaged and several of the windows broken. The guards' van sustained the worst damage of the vehicles. The frame of the carriage was partially detached from the bogies, while a panel at the end was knocked out. Fortunately, no accident to life or limb was sustained, but the damage will be considerable. A breakdown gang was brought in to request and soon had the derailed carriage replaced on the line. As the lie was clear of the main lines, no detention was occasioned to traffic. Wasn't that fortunate for the railway company?
Oh yeah, I just don't want any traffic
No
issues.
detentions. Can't have hold-ups.
Still, no fatalities. I mean,
No fatalities.
again, another big smash without any actual injuries.
And rolling stock is just the trains themselves and whatever they contain. You know.
Right, so next up we have Westloading Courier, Friday the 14th. Accident to a signalman, strange conduct. Last Saturday night, an unusual occurrence took place at the new signal box at Barhead. A signalman named John McFarlane, who resides in Westmains Cottages, which are close to the signal box, had a holiday on Saturday, which he spent in Edinburgh. He returned back by the last train, which leaves Edinburgh at 10:30. When the train reached Barhead, the signalman handed his tablet to the engine man. Immediately after he had done so, and as soon as the train rushed past, he observed a dark object drop on the rails on the other side. The signalman had to go and change the points, and after having performed that duty, he returned to see what had fallen from the train. To his consternation, he discovered a man whose face was so covered with blood that identification was impossible. Assistance was obtained, and the unfortunate man was conveyed off the rails. He was then recognised to be the signalman named John McFarlane. After some difficulty, he was conveyed to Bathgate, and from there to the Royal Infirmary at Edinburgh, where it was discovered he was suffering from fracture of the skull. The strange and dangerous manner of leaving the train can only be accounted for with the statement that he wanted to save himself the trouble of walking from Armadale Station. The other feasible explanation is that he forgot to get out at Bathgate Station, which was as near, if not nearer, to his destination, and jumped out when the train was opposite the cottages where he stayed. So,
Jeez.
I don't really know exactly why this happened, but he had a reason.
Because when trains didn't stop at certain stations and the people weren't aware, and you would think a signalman might be aware of what train he was on and where it would stop, but if the people saw that they were passing where they wanted to get off, apparently it was the done thing to just open the door and let yourself out, even though the train was still moving.
And that's why we can't open doors now.
I mean,
Well, that's part of it.
that would even occur to anybody is bizarre. It just baffles me. The Dundee Courier, Monday the 17th of December. We have a fatality near Crieff. A man killed on the railway. On Saturday afternoon, as the 3:12 p.m. train from Crieff Junction to Crieff in Comrie was approaching a deep cutting with a sharp curve, fully 2 miles west of Crieff, it knocked down a man who was walking on the 4-foot way. It is supposed that the man, who is named Andrew Dewar, a retired labourer about 70 years of age, who resided at Glascarry on the Strown estate 3 miles west of Crieff, had been in Dundee doing business and had taken the railway track as a short route home. Owing to the sharp curve in the cutting, the engine driver was upon him before he could draw up, while it is thought that the strong wind blowing at the time prevented the old man hearing the approach of the train. On the arrival of the train at Comrie, the matter was reported to the police. When Constable Duff, with an engine and van, proceeded to the scene of the accident and had the body conveyed to Crieff, where it was placed in one of the waiting rooms, the deceased had been dragged fully 100 yards from the place where he was knocked down. The body was found with face downwards, while the left arm was cut off and the left foot above the instep, and his face was so disfigured as to be past recognition. The police, on searching his clothes, found the key of his dwelling and a deposit receipt dated June last for £300, while, strange to say, a small bottle of ink was found intact. The matter has caused a considerable sensation in the district where deceased was well known. It sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. If the people at the ink company found out about that, though, they've got some advertising.
It's really the ink bottle
the
company.
Bottle company, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair play to
Get
them.
some tough glass.
So next up we got the Buchan Observer and East Aberdeenshire Advertiser, Tuesday the 18th. Oldmeldrum Accident at railway station. While Mr. George Mackay, a retired blacksmith at Baker Street, was coming off the train at Oldmeldrum railway station the other day, he unfortunately stepped onto the platform before the train had stopped, and keeping hold of the carriage handle, he dislocated his shoulder. Well, it's a fairly tame injury by our standards.
I don't understand getting off a train before it stops. Like, I can't get my head around people that did that, and so often.
Cowboys.
The Dundee Evening Telegraph, Thursday the 20th of December. Mr. George Westinghouse had produced a new invention which, it is stated, may turn out to be as important in railway affairs as his famous brake. It is a kind of friction buffer, designed for taking up the heavy shock of the impact between railway carriages or wagons, combined with a drawbar appliance for connecting the vehicles. Many American trains are already using the new appliance.
Yeah, that works.
We've already discussed the Westinghouse brake in previous episodes, at least one, because I'd watched a documentary on the Westinghouse brakes and.
So far we've seen the automatic couplings and this new brake, both make the headlines, improving the railways.
Yeah.
Also, like, it always seems the Americans kind of implement these things first. So, next up we have Westloading Courier, Friday the 21st. Accident on the railway on Saturday afternoon while John Johnston, a labourer employed at Airdrie Coatbridge, was walking home to Blackridge. He was overtaken by the 3 o'clock passenger train and knocked down. On being pushed up, it was found that he had sustained severe injuries and was deemed advisable to have him conveyed to the Edinburgh Royal Infirmary by the next train. At the time of the accident, a strong wind was blowing, which prevented Johnston from hearing the train coming up behind. He was caught on the shoulders and hurled over the embankment. Injuries were not considered dangerous.
So apparently December is the month for not hearing trains because of wind. Apparently.
Maybe this episode's theme, perhaps?
The Scotsman for Saturday the 22nd of December, we have a railway accident at Newton. A railway accident occurred on the Caledonian Main Line early yesterday morning. Several mineral wagons leaving the rails opposite Newton Colliery No. 1 and smashing the roadway for a considerable distance. Happily, the accident occurred at a time when only mineral traffic was in operation, but notwithstanding the efforts of a large breakdown gang, the lines were not cleared in time for the early passenger traffic, and great delay ensued. Later on, the line was cleared and trains passed on the single line principle, but it was the afternoon before the effects of the damage were rectified. So the company wouldn't have been very impressed about that. Might have had words with the colliery company.
So, next up we have Fife Free Press and Kirkcaldy Guardian, Saturday the 22nd. A midnight scene at Kirkcaldy railway station, corrugated roof blown on the line. About 12:20 am, a terrific blast carried away the greater portion of the corrugated iron roof of the tar house at the 4th Linoleum Works in the vicinity of the railway station. As showing the power of the gale, the heavy iron roofing was lifted far aloft, and after sweeping clean over the high intervening building, it alighted in a most awkward place, namely on the railway line. The crash of the falling roof set one or two of the company's sleepless servants on the alert to find out what happened. In this they were quickly successful, and in almost no time, with the assistance of a number of firemen and workmen on the night shift at Messrs Barry, Ostlier and Shepherd's Works, the operation of clearing the line was commenced and successfully accomplished after the lapse of fully an hour. Both roads were blocked. Had the occurrence passed unobserved, a serious railway accident would doubtless have resulted.
Pretty sure a corrugated roof on the track was going to be noticed. It wasn't going to go unobserved. It's quite a big obstacle.
Yeah. A lot of details in that one compared to the lack of details in some previous ones. Because at the end of the day, a bit of metal got on the track and they took it off the track, you know. But that was a full paragraph right there. But you got some poor guy like getting smashed on the railway, but you know, just a quick couple of sentences. You know, maybe because it's human life.
So
you know.
often, corrugated roofs on the line. Well, we've not had that yet.
Yeah, that's true.
We have had lots of people on the line though, so I think
6.5 really. Yeah.
I think it got to the point where they're just like,
yeah, you know, it happens all the time.
another one's been run down the same way as that guy last week, and
yes.
you know.
Yeah, it's another accident. Somebody died. Yes, you know.
I think
like,
they
no,
became
this
kind
thing
of numb
corrugated
to it.
down on the track. Print it.
Yeah. Yeah. Bells Hill Speaker for Saturday the 22nd of December. We have a railway fatality. A signalman on the Caledonian Railway, William Sibbald, 32 years of age, was accidentally killed on Monday morning about 7:30 as he was returning home from his work. It appears that he had stepped off the up line onto the down line in front of a fish train, which was due to pass, and which it is thought instantaneously killed him, although his body was not found until about an hour afterwards. He leaves a wife and family to mourn his loss. Well, we would hope he was killed instantaneously and wasn't just waiting for rescue for an hour.
Killed by a fish train.
Yeah.
Interesting. So next up we have Airdrie and Coatbridge Advertiser, Saturday the 22nd. Accident. On Saturday afternoon, while a boy named William Gillespie, residing in North Bridge Street, Bathgate, was coming from Livingston to Bathgate, he was knocked down by a passenger train coming from Edinburgh. He sustained a compound fracture of one of his legs and the other was fractured. He was also cut above the head. As quickly as possible, he was removed to Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, and on Monday night he was still in an unconscious condition.
Jesus.
That's a bad one. He will wake up in a lot of pain.
Yeah. The Edinburgh Evening News for Monday the 24th of December gives us a fatal accident at Bonnyrigg Station. About 11:30 on Saturday night, a man about 40 years of age, named Alexander Ritchie, residing at Roslin, was found lying at the west end of Bonnyrigg railway station platform in a dying condition. He was severely bruised about the head and unconscious. He succumbed to his injuries about midnight. It is supposed that he had been run down shortly after 11 o'clock by a special train of empty wagons. Deceased was a slater to trade. So there he was left for like a good half an hour before anyone found him, like in that state. It's always worse, like when you hear of these people like having lived any amount of time, like before being found and things. I don't know. Kinda makes it worse.
Aye. Gets in your head, doesn't it?
Mm.
This next one, Dundee Evening Telegraph, Wednesday 26th. Railwayman's narrow escape. Last night the storm was renewed with great violence in Annandale. An engine driver and fireman have been reported as having had a very narrow escape. As they were bringing a goods train out of the Glasgow and South Western station at Annan, a signal was blown down and it was dragged beneath the railway bridge near the engine, the men escaping by a miracle. 7 boats have slipped their moorings and damage to growing timber is considerable. The signal was blown down and it was dragged beneath the railway bridge near their engine, the men escaping by a miracle. But where were the men?
On the train. It's an engine driver and fireman, so those are train staff.
So it nearly hit them.
I think when it says that the signal was blown down, it's been blown onto the rails, obviously, then dragged beneath the railway bridge, probably by the train.
Yeah.
Or it's gone under. I mean, either way, if it's under a railway bridge, then I think it's probably like on the line.
So when it says escaping, it means escaping derailment.
Escaping with their lives. Escaping just means it's survived in this case. By lots
true.
of things,
It's just
escaping by a miracle.
I don't know. It's hard to evaluate what the danger specifically was. If you know what I mean. Like was the railway? Was the signal like that nearly hit them or something like that, or was it?
No, it was
the
dragged
train
beneath the
that
railway
nearly
bridge. So I don't know. I mean, the train's obviously crashed into the fallen signal, maybe, and maybe they almost like fell off the train, or I mean, there's a number of things that might have happened to them should the train hit anything. So
just need to look at it. I'd like to see the components next to each other, and you know
trying to work out the logistics of things when the articles don't provide full information is difficult,
challenging,
to impossible task. So the Dundee Evening Post for Thursday 27th of December, we have a man terribly injured. A crane accident of an alarming nature occurred yesterday at West Pure Bowness, in which a railway official named Walter Dixon, employed by the North British Railway as a wagon inspector, was severely injured. Operations were being carried on for the raising of a keel belonging to Mr. Finlayson, Bowness, by means of a crane situated on a high embankment overlooking the beach, at the erection of which Dixon was assisting. When the keel was in mid-air, the crane slipped its bearings and toppled over the embankment, dragging Dixon with it and falling on top of him, severely crushing him about the back and upper part of the body. He was also terribly lacerated about the face and head. He was removed home in an unconscious condition and medically attended to. Bodily crushings didn't tend to end well in the main.
No.
For these kind of accidents.
Especially if there's internal bleeding and stuff. Still crushed by a crane, that's a new one. That's unique so far. Maybe a bit more.
There's more.
There
are future crane crushings.
So, next up we have Dundee Evening Telegraph, Thursday the 27th, and it's accident to a farmer. While George Smith, retired farmer in Duke Street, Huntly, was walking along the railway on Tuesday afternoon between Ellon and Esselmont, near the bridge spanning the Ithan, he was overtaken and knocked down by the engine of the 1:30 special ballast train from Ellon, which was proceeding in the direction of Esselmont. He was tossed off the railway track. 2 persons who heard his cries picked him up and removed him to Ellon station, where he was seen by Dr. Bissett, who dressed his injuries. He was afterwards removed to the Aberdeen Royal Infirmary. His right shoulder was dislocated and the fingers of his right hand injured, while it is believed that several ribs on his right side have been bruised or broken.
Jeez.
I mean, it sucks, but he's one of the lucky ones, you know.
The Dundee Evening Telegraph for Friday the 28th of December, we have a fatal termination of railway accident at Montrose, so this is a follow-up article. James Watt, surfaceman, Rossie Island, died in Montrose Royal Infirmary last night from injuries received on Wednesday the 21st of November. Deceased, it will be remembered, was working at the entrance to Craig Cutting when a special passenger train from the south came upon the flying squad with which he was engaged. All were able to get clear except Watt, whose right arm, shoulder and collarbone were broken. He made satisfactory progress for a week or 2, but latterly his strength failed. He was 47 years of age and leaves a widow and 4 children, all of whom are young. I remember James Watt's story from November's roundup. I mean, James Watt is the kind of name that you recognise and remember in Scotland. So, But I think he was one of the heroes from our November roundup, where he hadn't got away in time because he had to do a thing, change the points or remove a thing.
Oh, right. Was that same?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was one of the heroes. I certainly remember us talking about James Watt.
Right, okay. So many victims, I lose track, you know. But next up...
We all do.
Yes. So next up we have Barhead News, Friday the 28th. Accident on the railway. On the morning of Monday last, a Caledonian mineral train drawn by two powerful engines while running between Barhead and Neilston on its way to Kilmarnock met with a serious mishap. The train consisted of 36 wagons loaded with coal, and after passing the new signal cabin at Barshagry, the coupling of the wagon's second from the engine gave way. The signalman, seeing the 35 wagons and guards van coming back at considerable speed, opened the points leading to the new upline siding, with the result that the train entered it, and before coming to a stand, guards van and 9 wagons had gone over the end of the siding, partly into Mr. Hutton's garden and partly onto the upline of rails at Barshagry House. The guard wisely jumped from his can on seeing how matters stood, or he would not have escaped with his life. The signalman at Barshagry is to be commended for his prompt action in bringing the train to a stand, although with such serious damage to plant and displacement of over 60 tonnes of coal. The officials had the line clear by midday and have left debris for removal on Sunday. While the block lasted, all trains passed up and down on the down line of rails between Barshagry, and Barhead with little or no delay. So well done,
that was good presence of mind there from the signalman. He'd have seen the train pass, and he would have just expected to have only dealt with the next train due. He wouldn't have expected to have seen the trains coming back, racing back down the lines towards him. So for him to have changed the points in a way that meant that he could get those runaway carriages off the main line, it's very commendable. The Falkirk Herald for Saturday the 29th of December. How we fared by the gale. Another serious mishap was the accident to the Pug engine which travels between Linlithgow Oil Works and St Magdalene's Siding. When at the works and about to make the usual journey, the engine and wagons were caught by the wind and blown off the railway. The boiler of the engine was burst and other damage done, but fortunately no personal injuries were sustained by those engaged on the engine.
A hell of a wind.
This thing where they weighed tons. I mean, they even covered just the weight of the train when we did the Greenock accident, where the train went off the embankment, flew through there and ended up buried. Do you remember the guys were burned to death? And it talked about the tonnage of the engine alone just to be taken out of the mud. How does a gale even come close to affecting it at all, much less blowing it off the lines? I can't understand that.
Hard to imagine.
I can't understand that at all. Hell of a gale.
So next up we have Airdrie and Coatbridge Advertiser, Saturday the 29th, railway fatality. Earlier on Sunday, the body of a man was found on the Lesmahago branch, about a quarter of a mile east from Larkhall Station. Later in the day, it was identified as that of John Rourke, 28 years old, labourer, Birkinshaw. On Saturday, along with a companion, he arrived with a train at Larkhall Station and was then put on the way for home. They had separated, however, and it's not known how Rourke came to be on the railway.
Probably tried to leave a bloody moving train.
Yeah.
For the Dundee Courier of Monday the 31st of December, Hogmanay, we have a railway accident at Burntisland. Early yesterday morning, an accident of rather an alarming character happened on the railway opposite the Links, Burntisland. A goods train was being shunted into the dock sidings when one of the trucks missing the points left the line and dragged 3 other wagons with it, the derailed trucks mounting on the top of each other. One of these struck one of the pillars of the new bridge recently erected to give access to the beach and precipitated it into the subway. The parapet railing was also twisted and broken. Both lines were blocked at the time, but a staff of workmen under Mr. Taylor, locomotive superintendent, sent to work, and cleared the lines in 2 hours before the morning trains were due. Well done them.
Okay, and final article this month, we've got North British Daily Mail, Monday the 31st, railway fatality. James McCann, second guard on a goods train from Dumfries, met with a fatal accident on the Glasgow and South Western railway line at Closeburn at a late hour on Friday night. He had been engaged shunting at the quarry siding and, having coupled on his train, was crossing the 6-footway to enter the van when a special train from Glasgow passed. He was struck on the head by the engine and death was instantaneous.
And that brings us to New Year's Day of January 1901. I think we'll take a break from this series for the time being, having completed our first year from Volume 1 of the Scottish Railway Incidents book.
Yeah, I've got lots of stuff to get busy with. Got Popular Tales of West Highland Ways. We've got Halloween True Crime that we're currently working on.
Yeah, that's some amount of work.
Yeah, that's a big one
that's
coming.
Had us both fully occupied. Well, I wouldn't say I hope you enjoyed them, because there's not really very many articles that were enjoyable to read, and likely not very enjoyable to hear, but they're certainly interesting for the state of things at the time with regards to health and safety, or lack thereof, and
the gradual evolution of health and safety.
Yeah, the kind of convincing railway companies to do what they needed to do to just continue operating in Scotland, without killing so many people and animals.
Smashing up trains in people's back gardens and stuff like that.
The theme for December appears to have been wind, though. Gales that stopped people from hearing trains. Gales that
trains right
took
over.
trains off the tracks. That seems to have been the theme of this one. So, well, we're glad that you joined us anyway. And we'll perhaps see you for the roundup of 1901 when we have time to get to those. Alright, so from Alex and myself, Jenny, enjoy it.